Today I will be talking about a brief overview of the aggregate demand shocks. First of all, it is important to differentiate between a movement along the demand curve and a shift of the demand curve. A movement along the demand curve only occurs when there is a change in price. A shift of the demand curve will result in a change in a non-price determinant. These factors include consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. There are two types of demand shocks. One, a positive demand shock, which will result in the curve shifting to the right, and two, a negative shock, which will result in the curve shifting to the left. Now let's go through some sample problems together. We will first focus on positive demand shocks. In the short run, assume that the sales tax has increased. Show the effect of this change and label the new short-run equilibrium output and price level. First, we must label the equilibrium and price and output level. Sales tax is a factor of consumption, and since it has increased, it also indicates wealth and thus consumption has increased, leading to an increase in the aggregate demand curve. As shown down below, the curve has shifted to the right. Make sure to label the new price, output level, and equilibrium. At our new equilibrium E2, both output and price is greater than before, indicating an economic boom and high demand for inputs. Now on to the long run. In the long run, first add the aggregate demand 2 curve and label equilibrium 2. Then illustrate what happens in the long run, label the new long run equilibrium, output, and price level. In order to reach equilibrium, be sure to label everything and previously add the shifted AD curve. Remember that equilibrium is when the long run aggregate supply curve, short run aggregate supply curve, and aggregate demand curve intersect. In order to reach equilibrium, we would have to shift the short run aggregate supply curve now to the left. At this point, output is the same as the original output, but prices continue to rise. The process of a negative aggregate demand shock is very similar. In the short run, assume that the firms expect a recession. Show the effect of this change and label the short run equilibrium, new short run equilibrium output, and price level. Because firms are expecting a recession, we can assume a decrease in investment and thus a decrease in the aggregate demand curve. The curve has shifted to the left. Remember to label the new price, output level, and equilibrium. At our new equilibrium E2, both output and price is less than before. This indicates an economic recession and a low demand for inputs. Now onto the long run. Same steps as before. First, add the shifted aggregate demand curve and label the new equilibrium. Then illustrate what happens in the long run. Label the new equilibrium, long run equilibrium, new long run output, and new long run price level. The aggregate demand curve shifted to the left as previously taken from the short run. In order to return to equilibrium, the short run aggregate supply curve will have to shift to the right, returning output to its original quantity and decreasing price even more.